Chapter 1, Better on a Rising Tide. Psychologists use a term they call internalizing, which refers to a specific state of mind. Internalizing means that an individual almost always accepts individual blame for his actions. The devil never made him do it. It was never something he could not help. It was never anyone else's fault. It is his always personally. Internalizing is the hallmark of winners, and it tends to develop some very specific traits of character in the individual who practices it over a period of years. Internalists are markedly self-reliant. They tend to have a highly developed sense of urgency. They become unused to consultation or advice, have a tendency to do something in person at once, even if it must be based on sketchy intelligence. Then, having done it, they move on to something else without a backward glance. Such characteristics are the trademark of fighter pilots, riflemen, and bullfighters. They are important attributes of loggers and turkey hunters, and while such thought processes are in every way admirable, they create a mindset that lends itself to spectacular error. Whenever such an individual is wrong, he is usually stubbornly so. Sometimes he stays and stays, and if he is a turkey hunter, he may do something even worse. He may recruit. He forms an erroneous hypothesis from a single aberrant observation. He leaps instantly to an iron-bound conclusion from such a firm basis of data and instantly takes his new religion on the road. Because he has such a tendency to internalize after he goes wrong, he tends to stay in error, and he will not rest until he has convinced dozens of innocents of the truth of his faulty piece of dogma. Think back, if you will, to some of the pieces of spectacular foolishness you were taught as if they were truth. Consider, for instance, the legend of the Mossy Head. Everybody has heard Mossy Head stories, the old pure strain, the real wild turkey, the one you heard about from the head of the stairs or the bottom of the front porch steps or wherever it was you used to creep and sit silently and listen to the old people talk. The specter that rises from the fireplace coals in those late night discussions fueled by bourbon. You probably even know somebody who has actually seen one, himself, personally, with his tired old eyes. He probably has, and so have you. They are not all that uncommon, especially in the subspecies Osceola. Not only have they been found, but they have been dissected by professionals. What they are hens. Hens with shriveled and non-functional oviducts. Hens without ovaries. The reason they do not gobble, the mythical Mossy Head was silent, is because hens don't. The reason their heads are fuzzy is because hens' heads are. Their feathers grow up the back of the neck. Mossy heads are nothing but gobbler plumaged hens with faulty plumbing, and have been exactly that ever since the glaciers receded. But that ain't showbiz. That ain't mystery. That ain't got the spooky hair crawling on the back of the neck aura of those dim wraith-like flocks of legend now vanished from the earth, so it won't sell, and besides, it is improper for descendants of the sons of Confederate veterans to sit around the fire at night talking about shriveled oviducts, for God's sake. What would General Lee think? Where the hell were you raised anyhow? It is with deepest regret that I must confess to you that I have been guilty of some of this same kind of missionary work myself. This spring will be my 50th, not years on earth, but years hunting turkeys. If there is a man who reads these lines, who has been at it longer than that, I feel heartily sorry for the poor old crock. He must be in one hell of a shape, because to steal a line from George Burns, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. In all that time, I have seen 2 flocks of budding turkeys, or to be exact, seen one and heard one. Both occurrences, 15 years apart, happened at the same time of day, both in the spring. When you hunt with someone, you send him to the first gobbling turkey and you go to the second one. If any one of the 200 things that can go wrong do go wrong, you can find yourself at 6:30 or 7 o'clock with an odd hour on your hands and no turkey to work. You can't go visit the other man. You have no prospects of your own, and it's too early to quit. So you prowl and call some and hawk and stop from time to time and yelp a little. You are partly hunting and partly using up the hour until it is time to meet back at the car. I was doing this both times I encountered a budding flock. The first time it happened, I saw them. The flock was 150 yards away and was moving down a long ridge. They were strung out over 70 or 80 yards, a turkey or two to a tree, walking up and down limbs, hopping among the branches, eating buds. There appeared to be no system to it. The back part of the flock did not fly to the front of the line to get into new trees. They all moved along, changing trees as the thought struck them, and the forward progress of the whole flock was maybe half a mile an hour.